There was a time when people were talking about the ability to grow a form of petroleum using something like an algae, where you would have algae in these literally thin vats, and they would be hit with enough sunlight that they would produce an oil that you could then turn into something that you could make a car, an internal combustion engine. What happened with that? Why didn't that work?
I don't know. I think in the end, all these ideas are just not very well thought out. I think, first of all, I believe that the petroleum products from the earth are the universe gift to the earth. And I don't understand why people hate it so much. What they should hate is that gasoline burns at only 22% efficiency. Okay, that's worth hating. We should be getting 85, 90% of the efficiency out of that burning, okay? And so it is with all the petroleum products. They are a gift, and we waste it. And at being simple about it's easy to throw away and it's not recycled or it's not reused, it's just awful. To grow something to replace that is ludicrous. We should be growing food to feed ourselves and clothe ourselves and do those things. And find better ways to capture energy from the sun to replace the petroleum products. Think about it. I saw driving in here that neighbors have all put their leaves in the gutter. There was a time when people would burn those. So what happens when you burn a tree's leaves? You burn some small percentage of the sun's energy that they captured that year, and the carbon that was captured and made into a leaf is released back. So it was there, it was taken, and it's back. So it's a cycle. The heat is the heat that would have been from the sun, but was made into chemical energy. So it's all equal. So that's a balanced equation.
I've never thought about it like that.
All right. So what happens if you burn the tree, the wood? Well, wait a minute. That's 50 years worth of sun energy. So that was stored like a battery. And now you've shorted the battery out and you've released all that heat that tree captured from the sun as chemical energy for over 50 years. So in a few minutes, all that energy is released. Now that's not quite in the equation. The CO2 was taken from the atmosphere, all right, and it goes back. But the heat was taken out of the system and stored.
Over a long period of time and then released immediately.
Same. And so then how much energy is there in a chunk of coal? I mean, millions of years ago, the energy was saved and stored. The carbon was there originally, and the carbon goes back. But the heat is sun energy from a long time ago. And now it's into the system. So you could get worried that there's way too much heat being dumped into the system. But you have to keep in mind that enough sunlight falls on the earth to be equal to all of man's industry in a year. So sunlight for an hour is equal to all of man's industry globally for a year. Okay?
Wow.
So what's wrong with that sun energy? Well, it's just too dilute. We don't know. We're not very good at concentrating it and using it for our purpose, or we're not willing to. So the amount of energy we release from ancient stored energy, I'm not sure how it fits into the equation, but certainly if you have a terrarium, and the earth is a terrarium, it's in a vacuum sealed jar. The heat can't get away unless it's by light. Okay. And so what does it do? Your terrarium, if you close the lid, gets water all over it, right? And so the water cycle runs faster. And that changes the way the heat is moved in the system.
So how concerned are you about this seems to go to the obvious place of global warming or climate change. Is that something that keeps you up at night as far as concerns?
No, I mean, okay, so the Earth has been warmer, and recently. So the best evidence for this are these dehydrated trees above the tree line in Glacier National Park. So you go there, you look it up, and say, dead trees and glacier on the ridges, 2,000 feet above the tree line are dead trees. So how did they get there? Well, they carbon dated them 780, 800 years ago. These trees were growing there.
That's not that long ago.
And the climate changed, and they died. Now, what happened to the trees in between? Well, they rotted. But the ones up on the top of the ridge, it's too dry because of the wind. And so the fungi weren't able to destroy them. So as little as 800 years ago, it was substantially warmer than it is now. Okay? So you can look up all the different degrees and so forth. And you can look up this notion about tree lines and different altitudes around the world, but it's true. So the question isn't that the world is warming. It certainly seems to be warmer. People are measuring it as warmer. And we don't really know what the cause is. I'm not sure that we should take all the credit. I mean, physically, the planet, its volcanic eruptions and all the other things that go on affect the Earth's temperature. So I'm not sure we should take too much credit. But what we need to do is adapt. And we're pretty good at that, and we should be focusing our energy on that. And one of the adaptations that we haven't taken on is the pollution that we've caused to the larger part of the Earth. So all the trash that's been dumped in the oceans and all the erosion, all of those things are things we should be focused on fixing. And I think we'll take care of ourselves, be all right. There'll be more severe weather. We'll have to adapt to build our houses differently. Instead of out of drywall, we may have to use something sturdier. But
wow, that's the first time I've heard somebody say that one of the solutions to going forward is to build your house out of something sturdier than drywall.
In Florida, they do. I mean, they build cinder block houses, and they have hurricane tied down roofs.
And they survive them just fine when they do.
And so the terrible, terrible hurricane in the Bahamas devastated everything. But if you look at the video very, very closely, you see selected houses that are fine. Well, I suppose there were some wealthy people there that had just put more energy and effort into building a sturdy house. And it survived it.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between the houses built in the late 70s and the early 80s. And there must have been one hell of a hurricane that went through, because the ones now built 80s and beyond, they're pretty solid when you go down there after a hurricane.
Right. So I think, this is a combination of economics and people's ability to do what they can do to have what they want and what's possible. So I think a lot of that can be worked out. And for the better. But in the meantime, there'll be some suffering.